So what the heck is the Pareto Principle and how does it apply to your woodworking business? Well, today I'm going to dive into it, so let's get started. All right, well, welcome back. As always, I'm so glad that you're here, and I want to talk today to you about the Pareto Principle, which many of you may be familiar with, many of you may not be familiar with, but I want to just give you a quick rundown of what the Pareto Principle is and why you should care about it, okay? So number one, what is the Pareto Principle? Well, the Pareto Principle states that 80% of your outputs are going to come from 20% of your inputs. So another way to say that is that 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your efforts. Okay, so how does this actually apply to you? Well, I want to give you 5 different ways this actually applies to your woodworking business, okay? And what's cool about this is these 5 are only 5 of probably 100 different ways that the Pareto Principle is actually going to apply to your life and your business. And so here's number 1. 80% of your progress comes from 20% of your time working, especially when building an actual product. So for those of you that have built, like, let's say furniture, you know that you're going to make 80% of your progress during the first 20% of your time building the product. So for me, I can build a table, laminate the top, glue up the top, build the legs. I can have that done within probably 3 to 6 hours. I can have the entire table built. What they don't tell you is that you're going to spend the next 80% of your time finishing the table. Sanding it, cutting it to length, putting finish on it, putting stain on it, fixing the little things here, there. All of the little details are going to take 80% of the time. So you make 80% of the headway building it in 20% of the time, and then the remaining 80% of the time is to do the last remaining 20% that it takes to get it done. That's the first one. Number 2, second way that you see the Pareto Principle inside your woodworking business is that 80% of your referrals are going to come from 20% of your customers. And so what's going to happen is 20% of your customers are going to love you. They're going to love your work. They're going to love the relationship that they have with you. And they're going to be proactive in sending you referrals. So how does this benefit you? What should you do with this information? Well, you should really cater to and take care of that 20%. You'll find that by pouring into those relationships, you'll double, triple, or quadruple the amount of referrals that you're getting off of those 20% of your customers, okay? Here's number 3. 80% of your headaches are gonna come from 20% of your customers. This is probably where all of you are like, you know what? That is absolutely right. I call it the 1 in 20 rule, or the 1 in 10 rule, depending upon your business. But 1 out of 20 customers that you're going to get is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. They're going to cause more chaos and more challenges for you than the other 19 combined. It depends on the season that you're in. Sometimes when you're really busy, it feels like that 1 out of 20 feels like you might get 3 or 4 of them in a row sometimes. I've had seasons like that where I get 3 or 4 just terrible customers, terrible clients that are super nitpicky, had really unrealistic expectations. We did everything from a liability standpoint that we need to do to make sure that we were covered, yet they try to bypass it in every way. But 80% of your headaches are going to come from 20% of your customers. 80% of your customers are going to be great. Maybe even 90% of your customers, 95% of them are going to be awesome. But it's that 1 out of 20 or 1 out of 10 is going to give you grief and be hard to work with, hard to deal with. And let me just tell you, this is every business. I don't care how good you are, you will have upset customers or have clients that are hard to work with, hard to deal with. It is par for the course. It's part of it. Number 4, 80% of your sales come from 20% of your conversations. You're going to have a lot of conversations, a lot of leads, especially as you start taking your business to the market. And so a lot of you guys right now, you may be completely dependent upon word of mouth and referral-based business, which is a great thing. But what happens is it falsely teaches you that you're a really good salesperson. I talk to guys all the time that are coming into the Woodworking Business Accelerator program, and I'm walking them through like, hey, you're going to get a lot of leads this first month. And they're like, man, I'm an awesome salesperson. This is going to be great. What they don't realize is that they've only been getting leads that are already warm coming to them. They're coming as a referral from somebody they already like and know and trust. Well, when you start marketing to a cold audience, they don't know you, they don't like you, they don't trust you. And so your conversion rate is going to drop dramatically, but you're increasing a ton of volume into your business. And so what happens is that 20% of your conversations with all these leads are going to produce 80% of the sales that you have when you take it to a cold market initially. Now that begins to change over time as you develop systems and as you implement what we call retargeting campaigns, which is where you get in front of clients again and again and again, and you can build some trust and rapport. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 5, the last one is 80% of your growth is going to come from 20% of your learning. Okay, so as you are leveling up, as you're growing, as you're developing, 80% of your growth as a business owner for your business is going to come from 20% of what you learn. And so one of the things that I can attribute a lot of my growth to is reading books. And I've talked about this in the past, and I'll continue to talk about it. But my goal when I read a book is to pull one principle, just one principle out of that book that I can use on a consistent basis that will benefit my business and my life. And so I want to pull one principle that I can implement, that I can use, that will greatly benefit. So I read 150 to 300 pages of a book to pull one principle. Yeah, I do. But that's the goal, because after reading 90 books or 100 books over the last 5 or 6 years, what I've found is that I now have a lot of principles that I can apply to my life and to my business. And so these are the 5 ways that I found that the Pareto Principle applies to your business. And if you look at every single component of what you do, you're going to find that the Pareto Principle is there in your relationships, your personal life, your business, your finances. And this is what I want you to really focus on as we wrap this up. 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your efforts. The goal with the Pareto Principle and understanding this is stop wasting your time on the things that don't produce results and start focusing on the 20%. That's the ultimate goal in understanding the Pareto Principle is, okay, if I'm getting 80% of my results from 20% of my efforts, why would I continue to focus 80% of my efforts over here on things that are only generating 20% of my results? So I want to redirect my time and energy and attention to the 20% of things that I'm doing that are actually generating results. That's the goal from the Pareto Principle. So hopefully this is helpful to you. A couple resources before you go. We have a free ebook that if you have not downloaded, you should check that out. We've had over 2,400 people now download that book. It's been incredibly helpful and insightful to so many woodworking hobbyists or new business owners that are trying to scale and trying to grow. It's totally free. You should check it out. It's in the description below. If you're trying to scale and get to $5,000 to $10,000 per month inside of your woodworking business, you should check out the Handmade Hero Academy. It's going to be super beneficial for you on your journey. And then lastly, number 3 is if you're really trying to scale into the tens of thousands of dollars per month inside of your woodworking business, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 per month, be sure to check out the Woodworking Business Accelerator program, where we're helping guys all over North America scale and grow their woodworking business to new heights that they didn't think were possible, but they're learning they are. So with that being said, guys, appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one.